My parents threw me out, but they never knew I'd come back with my siblings to fight back. Get out of here and never come back. My mother's voice, sharp as a frost-forged blade, sliced through the living room's deathly silence. She grabbed my backpack and hurled it fiercely into the front yard. The dull thud of canvas against concrete struck my heart like a sledgehammer. Staggering backward, I fixed my gaze desperately on my father. If only he'd say, "Think again," if only he'd frown, I would have stayed. But he leaned against the doorframe with his hands in his pockets, his eyes drifting over my shoulder to the shadow of the parasol tree across the street, silent as a stone statue, a faint trace of impatience even tugging at the corner of his mouth. Curtains flickered open in neighboring houses, their curious, sympathetic, and malicious glances weaving into a prickly net that burned my back. I clenched the hem of my shirt until my fingernails dug into my palms, inching toward the gate one painful step at a time. Behind me, the door slammed shut with a thunderous crash, a chasm impossible to cross, severing me forever from the home I'd lived in for 26 years. The night wind swirled dead leaves around my face, carrying the chill of late autumn, exactly the last bit of warmth this family had ever given me. My name is Eva, and I'm 26. I work part-time as a teacher at a community elementary school while pursuing a master's degree in education. The job is grueling, grading dozens of homework assignments daily, wrangling scores of energetic kids, then rushing an hour by subway to evening classes at the university, often returning to my rental apartment well past midnight. My salary barely covers rent, tuition, and basic groceries. To save more money, I survived on steamed buns and soybean milk for breakfast, the cheapest vegetable dishes at the school cafeteria for lunch, and sometimes just bread and tap water for dinner. Yet every time I finished a thick academic book in the library late at night, or looked into my students' eager eyes, all the hardship felt worthwhile. That grand dream, to become an educational researcher and build a warm, quarrel-free home, sustained me through countless exhausting days and nights. No one knew how hard I worked to earn that money. On weekends I took on extra tutoring at a training center, working from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. with barely a minute to drink water. Once, I ran a 102-degree fever, dizzy and unsteady on my feet, but forced myself to teach anyway. After class, I collapsed on the subway, nearly fainting. Another time, I pulled an all-nighter in the library to finish a lesson plan, showing up at school the next day with heavy dark circles under my eyes. My students teased, "Teacher, did you go stealing last night?" I forced a smile, my heart aching with bitterness. I never told my family about these struggles. I feared my mother would call me melodramatic, my father would say I wasn't strong enough. In this family, I'd always been the cautious peacemaker. My mother had a fiery temper, her words cutting like a knife, capable of sparking a storm over the smallest thing. My father was even crueler, outwardly silent, his words struck to the core, forever muttering, "Raising you wasn't easy," yet never defending me when I was accused. I learned to offer a glass of water during their fights, clean up silently after my mother's outbursts, and soothe my younger siblings when they cried. I thought if I was just good enough, I might finally earn a scrap of approval. I'd given it my all, stopping to buy groceries for the whole family on my way home from work, paying the internet and utility bills as soon as my salary hit the bank, waking up half an hour early to drive my siblings to school, and helping my mother clean the kitchen and fold laundry every night. These small acts took up all my sparse free time, but I never complained. I only hoped my mother would scold me less, that my father would glance at me with a hint of pride. But they were never satisfied. My mother constantly found new ways to demand more. "Your cousin bought a gold necklace, you should get me one too, or people will say my daughter is unfilial. Your brother wants a pair of designer sneakers, give him the money. You're earning now, so you should support him. The fridge is broken, you pay for a new one, or the food will spoil in summer." These requests poured in like a tide, and I gritted my teeth to agree each time. Once she asked for a $2,000 massage chair. I'd just paid my tuition and had no such money left, but after I tried to explain, she called me an ingrate who forgot her mother as soon as she earned a penny, ignoring me for a whole month. Only when I scrimped and saved enough to buy it did she finally soften her attitude, just a little. My father was a master of moral blackmail. Your mother and I raised you, now that you're making money, you owe us repayment. You give too little to the family, the neighbor's daughter gives her parents $5,000 a month. Look at you. What's the point of all that studying? You'd be better off earning money to support us sooner. He never cared how hard I worked, never cared about my tuition, he only knew how to take. Once, I fainted in class from overwork and was hospitalized, racking up a hefty bill. Instead of asking if I was okay, my father called to scold me for wasting money and not being more frugal. That faint hope of approval shattered completely over dinner one night. My mother set down her chopsticks, her gaze scanning me like I was a criminal. Eva, how long are you going to mooch off us? Earning that pitiful salary, not married, not contributing to the family, you're nothing but a burden. I'm studying, Mom. I have to balance work and school, and my salary is really tight. My voice trembled with pleading, tears stinging my eyes as I thought of my frugal, exhausting days. Excuses. She slammed her fist on the table, sending bowls and chopsticks clattering. What good is all that useless studying if it can't put food on the table? This family would be better off without you. Look at you, dressed like a beggar, you're an embarrassment to us all. I looked to my father, but he bowed his head lower, mechanically pushing rice around his bowl, as if the argument had nothing to do with him. After a long pause, he lifted his head and said coldly, "Your mother's right. You're not getting any younger, you should contribute to the family instead of wasting time on these unrealistic dreams." My mother's anger flared hotter. She shot to her feet, grabbed my backpack from the hallway, and stuffed it roughly into my arms. "Get out. Get out now and never come back. We don't want an ungrateful wretch like you in this family." My younger siblings huddled in their chairs, their big eyes wide with terror, too scared to say a word. Hugging the backpack to my chest, I felt ice-cold all over, shame flooding over me like a tidal wave. I walked out the door without hearing if my father had uttered a single word of protest. As I stumbled down the dark street, tears finally burst forth, mixing with anger and heartbreak. A few days later, a WeChat message from my cousin plunged me into an icy abyss. "Are you really abandoning Mom and Dad? Aunt says you're lazy, stole money from the family, and cut off all contact." My fingers whitened as I gripped my phone. My mother had already made up a story, painting me as an ungrateful daughter who'd betrayed her family. All the silent nights I'd worked, all the sacrifices I'd made to support them, had been erased by her lies. A lingering attachment made me return home a few weeks later. When I pushed open the door, dinner was already on the table, four bowls neatly arranged, with no place for me. Standing awkwardly in the living room like an outsider, I hesitated to ask, where should I sit? My mother didn't even look up, casually picking up food for my brother. "If you're not part of this family, don't intrude on our dinner. We don't feed idlers or traitors." My siblings bowed their heads, their long eyelashes hiding their emotions, no one daring to speak up for me. I turned to leave, my stomach churning, a bitter taste lingering in my mouth. As I reached the door, my father's voice called out, "Since you're here, leave this month's living expenses, otherwise, you're not going anywhere." I didn't look back, hurrying out of that suffocating house. The humiliation at the family gathering finally opened my eyes to reality. Relatives chatted and laughed around the room, their voices drowning out the clink of glasses. My cousin asked curiously about my graduate studies, but before I could answer, my mother cut in loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Oh, Eva's too busy playing smart to do anything useful. She thinks a few books make her better than everyone else, but she never lifts a finger around the house." Snickers broke out, and relatives stared at me with pitying eyes. I saw my father crack a faint smile, as if it were all a harmless joke, then he added, "That's why girls don't need to study so much. Better to get married young, and bring in some dowry money." In that moment, my heart felt like it had been torn to shreds, but I forced a stiff smile, holding back tears. After the party, I hid in the stairwell and cried for a long time, vowing never to hope for anything from this family again. Before long, my father approached me alone, his tone eerily calm, as if rehearsed. Eva, now that you're earning a salary, you should send $2,000 a month for living expenses. Times are tough for us and your siblings still need to go to school. I don't even live here anymore. I stared at him in disbelief, thinking of my frugal days and their endless demands, anger flaring in my chest. My mother appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, a sneer on her face. You owe us that much, we sacrificed so much to raise you. You'll never pay it back. My throat tightened, all words of defense stuck in my chest. From that day on, I began collecting evidence instinctively, every paycheck stub, every transfer receipt for utility bills, every supermarket receipt for groceries I'd bought for the family, even screenshots of my mother's text messages demanding money. I wasn't trying to get revenge, I just wanted proof to clear my name when they twisted the truth again. Their cruelty became a catalyst, forging me into something stronger. I channeled all my grief and anger into my studies and work, burning the midnight oil in the library, cherishing my students' sincere thanks, and saving every extra dollar from tutoring jobs to build my confidence. I still slipped money to my siblings secretly, telling them to buy school supplies and study hard, to escape this house one day on their own. But I no longer expected anything in return, my worth didn't depend on this family's approval. Late at night, when my small rental apartment fell silent, I'd take out a black binder and organize my evidence. The numbers on the paycheck stubs weren't large, but they recorded my hard work, the transfer records proved my contributions, my mother's text messages, send $200 for gas tonight, buy rice and flour if you still care about this family, get me a new phone, exposed her hypocrisy in black and white. I hid the binder in the bottom drawer of my desk, never showing it to anyone. It held my grief, but it also held my strength. Emma, my best friend from college, was the only one who saw through my facade. One night at a cafe, I finally broke down, pouring out all my sorrows, the dinner without a place for me, the humiliation at the family party, the endless demands for money. She listened quietly, never interrupting, then squeezed my hand firmly and said, "Eva, you've done more than enough. Their inability to see your worth doesn't mean you're not worthy. Your value doesn't depend on them." Her words were more powerful than I'd imagined. For the first time in months, I felt truly seen. A few days later, she introduced me to her advisor, who offered me a part-time teaching assistant job at the university. The pay wasn't high, but it gave me financial independence, money my parents couldn't control or claim as their own. It felt like a huge step forward, a small corner of my life that belonged only to me. Meanwhile, my mother continued spreading lies about me to relatives, even saying behind my back, "Eva's too weak to stand up for herself, she'll never fight back." When I heard this, I didn't feel anger, only relief. I knew I was no longer the little girl who needed her family's approval to survive. After I left, the burden of the family fell squarely on my siblings. My brother, just starting high school, was forced to drop out and get a job. "Studying is useless," my mother told him. "Earn money to support the family instead." My sister, still in middle school, came home every day to cook, clean, and take care of my parents, facing scolding and even beatings for the smallest mistakes. They began texting me secretly, pouring out their grievances, just like I had once. My heart ached for them, and I told them to hold on, to keep studying, that I'd help them escape as soon as I could. The breaking point came when my brother refused to drop out, and was beaten badly by my father. My sister, overwhelmed by it all, ran away to my apartment in tears. Looking at my brother's bruises and my sister's red, swollen eyes, I could bear it no longer. I decided to unite with my siblings and fight back. I invited my parents to meet, just the five of us, sitting around the dining table that had witnessed so many fights. My siblings sat beside me, their eyes filled with determination. I placed the black binder on the table and flipped it open slowly. "Here are the internet bills I paid for 6 months straight, the electric bill I covered last winter, the receipts for groceries I bought for this family, and these text messages. You demanded money from me while badmouthing me behind my back. Don't you feel any guilt?" My mother scoffed, leaning back in her chair. "A bunch of paper, what does that prove? You should be buying these things anyway. Yes, I should help, but not with endless demands. I raised my voice. You never cared how hard I worked. I lived frugally, worked myself to exhaustion, and you treated me like an ATM. The moment I left, you turned on my siblings, forcing my brother to drop out, making my sister work like a servant. Do you even deserve to be parents? My brother stood up then, rolling up his sleeve to show his bruises. Mom, Dad, I don't want to drop out. I want to study. You can't ruin my life because of your greed. My sister's voice trembled as she said, I'm so tired. I just want to study and rest like other kids, not cook and clean, and get beaten every day. My father's face turned livid, and he started to snap, but my cold gaze stopped him in his tracks. I pushed the binder toward them. This is all evidence. If you ever hurt my siblings again, I'll go to court and fight for their custody. From today on, the three of us are cutting ties with you, no more contact, no more money. My mother opened her mouth to argue, but when she saw our unwavering stares and the pile of evidence, no words came out. The arrogance faded from her face, replaced by panic and embarrassment. My father's hand shook as he set down the papers, looking from me to my mother, but he said nothing. A long, heavy silence filled the table. I looked at their familiar yet alien faces, feeling nothing but calm. All the longing, grief, and resentment I'd carried for years vanished in that moment. Closing the binder, I stood up. I'm not here for an apology. I just want you to know we're no longer yours to control or hurt. From now on, we go our separate ways. I walked out with my siblings, never looking back, never shedding a tear. There was no shouting, no begging, only silence. But this time, the silence didn't sting. It felt like freedom. After leaving, I helped my brother transfer to a new high school, and let him live with me, focusing on his college entrance exams. My sister transferred to a nearby middle school, joining our small household. I worked tirelessly, earning money to give them a better life and education. The three of us supported each other, encouraging one another through hard times. Our days were tough, but filled with warmth and hope. My brother studied diligently and got into his dream university. My sister excelled in school, always top of her class. We grew closer than ever, sharing everything, becoming each other's strongest support. On weekends, we'd cook together, watch movies, or walk in the park, like the real family we'd never had. As for my parents, without our financial support or care, their lives fell apart. My mother tried borrowing money from relatives, but her lies about me had ruined her reputation. No one would help her. My father's health deteriorated from heavy drinking, and he lost his job, leaving them with no income. The pride they'd cherished so much crumbled amid constant fights and poverty. Later, I heard they'd moved to an old house in the countryside, living alone in misery. Some people told us to visit them, but my siblings and I shook our heads. It wasn't cruelty, we just couldn't bear to be hurt by them again. Today, I've earned my master's degree and become a university lecturer. My apartment is small but warm and cozy, my job is challenging but fulfilling. Emma is still my best friend, and we still cook together, travel, and share every joy and sorrow of life. My siblings have built their own lives and careers too. My brother works as an engineer, and my sister is studying to be a doctor. We gather often, reminiscing about the hard days we overcame, and dreaming about the bright future ahead. I no longer crave my parents' approval, nor do I dwell on the grievances of the past. Those who once hurt me became stepping stones on my path to growth. I finally understand that a person's worth doesn't depend on the recognition of others. A real family isn't defined by a house, it's defined by people who cherish each other and stand by one another through thick and thin. If your family has ever made you feel wronged, if your efforts have ever been overlooked, if your growth has ever been filled with hardships, remember this: you are not alone. Your value isn't determined by others' opinions, your hard work will eventually be seen by time, your strength will carve out a sky for you to thrive under. Be brave, keep going, and you will eventually become the best version of yourself, finding the true happiness you deserve.